YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. In this episode for you, in the description of the video for your convenience if you want to look anything up on them. Make sure we have audio, and then we'll get rocking here. There we go. It's a working good. Now, find myself. First one we have here is off of Washington. Tom Perez wins hard-fought DNC race to become Democrats' first. Get the hamster to cooperate. There we go. Tom Perez was elected Saturday as the first Latino chair of the Democratic National Committee, opposition from Bernie Sanders' wing of the party, and delivering a win for Barack Obama, who recruited him for the job. Perez, though, in his first act as chair, immediately moved by tapping Representative Keith Ellison, the preferred pick of the progressives, as his deputy chair. To walk out of this room divided, Mr. Ellison said. The moment came after the race turned into a nail-biter. Round of voting, Mr. Perez fell a single vote shy of winning on the first ballot, setting up a second ballot showdown. In the two-person race, Mr. Perez, who served as Secretary of Labor in the Obama administration, 35 of the 435 votes cast. He'll need 218 votes to win. And received 200 votes, failing to on his first round tally. Friends, with an unrelenting optimism in our capacity to move forward, Mr. Perez said after travel from interim chair Donna Brazil. I know we will win the battles ahead when we put our values forward, when we mobilize this grassroots energy. I have a lot of work to do, he said. I recognize I have a lot of learning to do. I ask everyone across America, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, another party, to listen to our message. The voting started. Pete Gig, I'm guessing that's how it's pronounced, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, shocked supporters by pulling the plug on his candidacy without endorsing a rival. But he still received vote in the initial round of voting. Sally Boynton Brown, director of the Idaho Democrats, received a dozen votes in the first round and pulled out of the race, but did not endorse. Commentator Green received votes, while Peter Pekanarski, a lawyer specializing in voter laws, and Sam Ronan, an Air Force veteran, did not receive any votes and also ended their campaigns. Pekarski endorsed Mr. Ellison, while Ms. backed Mr. Perez. Mr. Perez takes over the reins of a party that is cash-strapped division and reeling from a slew of losses, a state and federal level, which were punctuated by President Trump's victory over Hillary Clinton. The party, though, energized by the grassroots blowback against Mr. Trump, and hopes to harness the enthusiasm of activists. Gubernatorial races in Virginia and New Jersey this year will serve as an early test for the new chairman and possible momentum builders heading into the 2018 midterm elections, where they hope to eat into GOP majorities in the House and the Senate. Perhaps more importantly, they want to make up ground in state legislatures. Redistricting are set to play out over the 2020 census. For his part, Mr. Trump celebrated Ms. Perez's win. To Thomas Perez, who has just been named the chairman of the DNC. I could not be happier for him or the Republican Party, the president said on Twitter. The outcome of the hard-fought competition Saturday underscored the political fissures in the party that have lingered from primary race. Bernie Sanders supporters say the DNC rigged the race in favor of Mrs. Clinton. Became evident after the final results were announced. Pro-Ellison shirts chanting "Big Money," but the mood turned positive after Mr. Perez named Mr. Ellison as deputy chair. That's what the doctor ordered for some DNC members who have voiced concerns to bridge that divide, said John Graham, a DNC member from New Jersey. "We are really broken party right now. Let's blew it." This incredibly disappointing result is another missed opportunity for a Democratic Party desperately trying to reign relevance again. Such party insiders are with the grassroots movement currently in the streets and town halls nationwide, said Jim Dean, for America. Have been frustrated with the direction of the party, and they have suffered another setback Saturday after DNC members voted a resolution that would have revived a ban and on corporate lobbyists at large members. Has boiled over into calls for Mr. Sanders to follow the lead of millions of Americans by breaking away from the Democratic Party, the third party. Mr. Perez has vowed to cultivate a new bench of candidates, state parties, and put more emphasis on small dollar donations. Report for the Unity Commission, which is comprised, I do that and then the page jumps, isn't that nice? Which is comprised of Clinton's and Sanders' allies and tasked with hammering out recommendations on the role of superdelegates. On his experience in the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, the 55-year-old plans to set up a legal team tasked with combating that Democrats say disenfranchise voters. The vote a contest that started to unfold days after the November election when Mr. Ellison announced his candidacy. Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer, Senators Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, and major unions such as endorsed him. Mr. Perez entered the race at the urging of Mr. Obama. It evolved into a proxy war between the party establishment and progressives when Mr. Perez former and Mr. Ellison representing the latter. It has been decades since there was a race for the party chair. The contest received tons of attention thanks to the power vacuum left following the end of the Obama administration and internal battle over the direction of the party now that Republicans control the chamber of Congress, most governorships, and most legislators. The next article of nationalreview.com. It says Tom Perez, the leftist radical who could be Hillary Clinton's running mate. Scroll up. Person in the administration found his way into Hillary Clinton's VP shortlist. Shortlist of potential Democratic running mates filled with senators and governors stands out for its obscurity. Tom Perez, who Hillary Clinton considered a little-known Secretary of Labor Vice President. USA Today's panel of Democratic insiders possibly rank him the third most likely choice. Name recognition, he would bring a lot to Clinton's campaign. Dominican heritage means he checks Latino, a key demographic in plenty of swing states that is likely to be even more important than usual in the year of Trump. Progressive warrior in the mold of Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. Of the anti-Clinton animus typical to members of the crowd. He effusively in December of last year. Liberal credentials are as impeccable as they come. Mother Jones called him one of the administration's most stalwart conservative policy experts who have followed his work in the Justice and Labor departments. Consider him perhaps the Obama administration's most radical and relentless. The Competitive Enterprise Institute's vice president of strategy calls Perez possibly the most dangerous person in the administration right now. His rewriting of the U.S. labor law is probably the most fundamental attack on free enterprise system going on at present. Murray says if he has his way, we won't just revert to the 1930s. We'll do things that even Franklin Roosevelt couldn't do, like eliminate vast numbers of independent contractor jobs and unionize those that remain. Murray sees Perez's ideological vision as driven insistence that most workers are oblivious to exploitation by employers and need being to help them understand proper work-life balance or to make basic choices about work. His work in the Justice Department was just as extreme. Operationalized Eric Holder's radicalization of the Department of Justice, says Isla Shapiro, a senior fellow in constitutional studies at the Cairo Institute. No civil rights theory too crazy to pursue, no litigations too awkward to pay off. Shown a glaring inability to tell the truth and dispassionately apply both basic constitutional tenet of equal justice under the law, declared Judicial Watch. Long before Obama stepped into the Oval Office, Perez stood out as a Democratic lawmaker willing to ignore or contravene laws that impeded. As a member and then chairman of the Montgomery County Council, Perez promoted driver's licenses and in-state tuition eligibility for Maryland illegal immigrants. In 2006, Attorney General and pushed for one of his favorite ideas at the county level, a program to have state residents import low-cost prescription drugs from Canada. The Federal Food and Drug Administration said the program would be illegal, and the country attorneys concurred, adding one need not be a lawyer or clairvoyant to see potential for civil liability. Perez responded that sometimes you have to push the envelope in pursuit of the right thing. At the Justice Department, Perez was ready to push the envelope. Perez has touted disparate impact theory and discrimination law, which contends that discrimination exists in just about any circumstance where statistical data point to a racial disparity, regardless of whether discriminatory intent can be proven. He was willing to go to unprecedented lengths to protect this touchstone of his legal thinking. A whistleblower lawsuit claimed that the city of St. Paul, Minnesota had received tens of millions of dollars of community development funds, including stimulus funding, by improperly certifying its compliance with federal law. The Department of Housing and Urban Development office in Minnesota and the DOJ civil fraud section were ready to pursue what seemed like a glaring case of local governmental malfeasance. At the same time, the city was fighting in court with area landlords whom it had accused of racial discrimination. The landlords contended that nothing in the Fair Housing Act allowed the use of impact theory as the measurement for discrimination and had appealed to the Supreme Court. The stakes of the latter lawsuit were high. There was a strong possibility that the Supreme Court would reject disparate impact theory as a valid indicator of legal discrimination. Personally arranged a complicated quid pro quo of St. Paul in which the city would drop its appeal to the Supreme Court in the case with the landlords, and the Department of Justice and HUD would drop the whistleblower case. The committee later concluded that Perez facilitated and consummated this deal because the court would find disparate impact unsupported by the text of the Fair Housing Act. Biography touches for a Guzzi convention video. College by working as a garbage collector and a warehouse laborer. status as the first Latino on major property ticket. Try this again. But his first record, my goodness, and his historical status as the first Latino on a major party ticket would surely be touted endlessly by a friendly media. The record reflects something far more sinister. Put it when Perez was nominated to be Labor Secretary, a committed ideologue who appears willing, quite frankly, to say or do anything to achieve his ideological end. The article that we have is off of RT, and it says, FBI to stop national security leakers, says Trump. Blasted the organization in a two-part tweet saying it couldn't even stop leakers within its own ranks. Here's his tweet. FBI is totally unable to stop national security leakers that have been in our government for a long time. They can't even find the leakers within the FBI itself. Classified information is being given to media that could have a devastating effect on the U.S. Now, Trump has publicly lambasted the media several times in recent weeks over allegations he was struggling to work with his cabinet. Information leaked to the press led to the resignation of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn over his contact with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. Information came after the New York Times reported that officials close to the Vice President Mike Pence said Flynn was suspected of omitting details of his conversation with Kislyak. Vice President, that acting Attorney General Sally Yates and a national security official told the White House counsel Donald McGahn could be vulnerable to blackmail from the Russians. Well, the leaks are real. The news is fake because so much of the fake news is fake, Trump told press conference when questioned about the leaks. Tweeted that low-life leakers would be caught, telling reporters on the same day that he had called the Justice Department to look into the leaks. And the tweet says, the spotlight has finally been put on the low-life leakers. They will be caught. All I have is off of Liberty Writers. It says, Washington in flames. What Trump just officially did will make every American rich. President Donald Trump has rescued the U.S. He has now reduced the U.S. debt burden in his first month in office. Check this out. Check this out. Check it. On January the 20th, the U.S. debt was $19,947 billion. Ridiculous, right? On January the 20th, the U.S. debt was at $19,947 billion. Exactly a month later, on February the 21st, stood at $19,935 billion. Trump has cut the debt by $12 billion in his first month in office. 1% in the first month in office. Increase. It says, at first, that doesn't sound like a lot, but compare it with this. Under President Obama's increased the U.S. debt burden by more than $200 billion. Obama increased the U.S. debt in his first month. He signed the $1 trillion stimulus bill that was considered a massive failure of tax dollars. Obama doubled the U.S. debt during his presidency. And they give charts in this if you want to. They're mind-boggling. That help us get this information out, let the nation know that Trump is keeping his campaign promise, and for the first time in a while we are balancing the budget. Article that we have is off of dailysignal.com. It says Pence vows to end the Obamacare nightmare. Mike Pence attempted to assure conservative activists Thursday night that the Obamacare is on its way out. Let me assure you, Pence said at the annual Action Political Conference, or the CPAC, America's Obamacare nightmare is about to end. And replace Obamacare remain in limbo. Pence made the issue centerfold in his keynote address at CPAC, the largest annual gathering of conservatives. Pence promised to repeat eliminating its mandates, its taxes, into your business and into your lives, saying Obamacare would be replaced with something that actually works. Despite the best efforts of the liberal activists in town halls around the country, Pence added, the American people know better. Obamacare has failed and Obamacare must go. And so get down here a little bit. It says this failed law is crippling the American economy and crushing the American people. Adding fuel to the fire, Pence referred to the promises liberals made about Obamacare as fake news. Remember, they told us the cost of insurance would go down. They told us if you liked your doctor, you could keep him. They told us if you liked your health plan, you could keep it. Now we all know the truth. Today's Americans are paying $3,000 or more a year their health insurance. Last year, premiums skyrocketed a stunning 25%. Millions have lost their plans and lost their doctors. Higher costs, fewer choices, worse care, that's Obamacare. He also said the affordable was a job killer. Replacing Obamacare, Pence was dismissive of all fear-mongering from the left and said there would be an orderly transition to a better health care system that finally puts the American people first. But he and President Donald Trump ensure all Americans had access to quality and affordable health care insurance, which is why we're designing a better law that lowers the cost of health insurance without growing the size of government. Continued, we're going to let Americans purchase health insurance across state lines the way you buy your life insurance, the way you buy your car insurance. We're going to make sure that Americans with pre-existing conditions have access to health insurance and the security they need. And we're going to give states the freedom and flexibility to take care of the least fortunate in the best way that will work in their state community. It was Pence's 9th time addressing CPAC, but his first time doing so as vice president. CPAC, the largest gathering of conservative activists, runs from Wednesday to Saturday at the Gaylord National Resort and Convention Center in National Harbor, Maryland, just outside Washington. Pence spoke about Trump's historic victory, noting that he won 30 of 50 states and saying that the media, the elites, the insiders, everybody else who profits off preserving the status quo had dismissed our president every step of the way. In dismissing him, they also dismissed millions of the hardworking, forgotten men and women who make this country great, Prince. And worse yet, they're still trying to dismiss him. They're still trying to dismiss all of us. On election day is government of the elites or for the establishment. Not, or so try that again. What November 8th showed, listen, is that it is still the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And the fight didn't end on election day, saying the harder work, the most important work now lies ahead. The addition to repealing and replacing Obamacare, Pence highlighted several additional top agenda items under the Trump administration. These included rescinding unconstitutional executive orders signed by Barack Obama, rolling back job-killing regulations, strengthening the military, and reducing taxes. He said under Trump, never be forced to adopt the Common Core standards, and highlighted the administration's approach to Israel, our most cherished ally. Fight is our fight. Her cause is our cause. Her values are our values. The vice president also highlighted top figures in the Trump administration, mentioning Attorney General Jeff Sessions, Defense Secretary James Mattis, Housing Secretary Pick, said, "This is the A-team." President Trump has assembled the strongest conservative cabinet in none, Pence said. Pence told conservatives they have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to accomplish this agenda. My friends, this is our time. This is our chance we worked so long to see. In order to accomplish all this, Pence said, we got to mobilize. We got to march forward as if it's the most important time in the history of our movement, because it is. He called on young conservatives to use the social media to fight back and pray. More than anything, Pence concluded, Trump and I need your prayers. largest annual national gathering of the conservative activists runs from Wednesday to Saturday at the Gaylord National Resort and Convention Center in Maryland, just outside Washington. Next article is off of World Journalism, or Western Journalism, sorry. And we'll wait for the hamster to get her up here. Trump has done enough to warrant impeachment, he says. Well, let's see how this reads. President Trump already done enough to warrant impeachment, according to a leading contender to become the next chairman of the Democratic National Committee. Well, we know from previous articles he didn't make that, but he is the it says Representative Keith Ellison, Democrat of Minnesota, said the president has done a number of things to legitimately raise the question of impeachment Wednesday night on CNN's DNC debate. Ellison, the first Muslim elected to Congress, one specific complaint in his claim that Trump was in violation of come on, mouth. monetizing from the presidency. And get it to scroll up. On day one, he was in violation of the clause. This is part of the Constitution, which says the president, you can't get payments from a foreign power. The day people checked into his hotel and started paying him, foreign dignitaries, he was in violation of the law, he continued. On this, if you want to pull it up and see that article up here a little higher. Ellison called for investigations but to protect our Constitution and the presidency of the United States to make sure that nobody can monetize the presidency and make profit off gain. Sherry Dillon, a tax attorney who was advising Trump prior to his inauguration, said in January press conference that the president would give any hotel profits generated by foreign government representatives to the U.S. Treasury in an effort to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest. Dillon also argued clause of the Constitution, which prevents government officials from accepting gifts from foreign governments, did not apply to paid ethics watchdog group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, D.C., filed a lawsuit violating the emoluments clause a few days after his inauguration. The Minnesota congressman's hardline stance of calling for impeachment differs from that of his establishment Democrat colleagues, such as House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Democrat of California, who has opted a far more cautious approach towards Trump. The House Minority Leader said earlier this month that the president has acted in a way that is strategically incoherent, incompetent, and that is reckless. But that is not grounds for impeachment, Pelosi stressed. The new chairman Saturday in Atlanta. So there you have that. And they did get a new one, and it's Perez, the deputy. So this dead horse about the emoluments clause, are you kidding me? I thought we had that sorted out. Next one is off of Liberty Writers, and it says, Donald Trump just gave a dire warning to every pot smoker in America. Make this country great once again, and part of that plan involves cleaning up some of our worst habits. Today, during the White House press conference, reporters asked exactly what Donald Trump was planning cracking down on recreational marijuana in use in the United States. Has stoners everywhere freaking out. See greater enforcement of it. Now, just to clarify, when Spicer says he was referring to recreational marijuana. Donald Trump has been very openly in favor of medical marijuana in the past, and that is not changing anytime soon. There is no specific yet exactly what this could mean. However, what we do know is that there has been a rise in new medical conditions in the area with recreational marijuana use. It is very important to note, however, that marijuana is not currently anywhere near a top priority for President Trump or Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Between criminal illegal Islamization, there is a chance it may not be worth funding and manpower needed to enforce it all. You or a family member suffer from cancer, epilepsy, glaucoma, or one of many other medical conditions that medical marijuana, fear not. President Donald Trump has no intention of leaving you out in the cold. And it says here, if you think Trump is making the right decision, show your support and help to share this out everywhere. Well, I with anybody 100%. I disagree with him on this one. I think they should legalize it, tax it, and you can't cut off everybody's fun. This has been illegal for far too long. We got too many people sitting in prison over smoking a doobie. I mean, this is ridiculous. So he's got bigger fish to fry than worry about marijuana. So I will have to, disagree to him on that one. This next one is off of shtfplan.com. Man in hiding confesses to illegal fundraising, fears untimely death. The pattern continues. Those who are concerned to the crimes and misdemeanors of the Clinton crime cartel live in hiding for fear of their lives. Of course, there was funneling of money going on. The WikiLeaks and Guccifer 2.0 hacks went a long way in documenting the quid pro quo nature of Clinton diplomacy. Back in the 90s, it was selling nuclear secrets to China and schmoozing with the high-powered Chinese individuals caught up in real estate deals, fundraising schemes, and the like. So it is little surprising, though certainly alarming, that this story has surfaced of Chinese-American businessman who is living in hiding and who felt compelled to make an insurance policy video detailing in the Clinton administration's Chinagate, which involved laundered funds from high-powered Chinese businessmen. States the Chinese-American businessman at the center of the Clinton campaign finance scandal secretly filmed a tell-all video as an insurance policy because he feared being murdered. Johnny Chung spills details on how he illegally funneled money from Chinese officials to Bill Clinton's 1996 re-election bid. The Chinese-American Clinton fundraiser recorded the elaborate videotape testimony while in hiding in 2000. To trusted friends and family with instructions to release it to the media in the event of his untimely death because he believed he was at risk of being assassinated. To still be alive and living in China. It seems that there were some implicit threats being made against him from within the system just ahead of his testimony. His FBI protection was lifted, instructed to call 911 if he felt his life was in danger. And there's a video, it says it's highlight excerpts of his confession video, if you want to take a look at that. It says, if one reads between the lines, and it seems clear that the threat was made against Chung to coerce him into keeping his mouth shut and saying nothing that could indict First Lady or their network of operatives. Chung described on the tape of how Democrats on the House Committee on Government Reform tried to dissuade him from testifying publicly before the committee by sending his attorney a letter telling him that he could plead the Fifth Amendment. Began providing around-the-clock protection for him, but just a few days before Chung was scheduled to testify before the grand jury, the FBI headquarters in Washington called off the protection detail and told Chung he would have to make the trip alone. I called the FBI office and offered with the U.S. Assistant Attorney again on the phone, and said Chung, and he said, Mr. Chung, your case is over. As a normal American citizen, what you do if you feel like your life is in danger, you just call 911. Chung's connections to elite Chinese businessmen apparently went all the way to the top of the chain. It is evident that a foreign power influenced the iconic American president to the point of buying him out. This is just the top of the iceberg, and you can feel it. Next one, not to be outdone by that one, It's off of Liberty Writers, and it says, "She did it again. Hillary Clinton just managed to hide something huge from America." The nightmare of Hillary Clinton really is never going to end. Now she has managed to dodge another bullet after a federal judge blocked a request by Judicial Watch to see some of the crucial info hidden deleted emails. Judge James E. concluded that Judicial Watch has not provided a sufficient basis to believe that the information withheld by the State Department would shed light on any government misconduct, according to Politico. Had filed the request under the Freedom of Information Act in hopes of finally uncovering some of what the email servers that Hillary Clinton worked so hard to hide during the election. The Clintons seem to be totally covered up in paperwork and insiders who would die for them. We may never know what was in those emails. We can still be happy knowing one simple fact, however: Hillary Clinton has never and will never become president of the United States of America. For you in this episode, if you like what I'm doing, give it a thumbs up so everybody gets to hear the news, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that yet. See you in the next episode.